this is Pastor Sharam Hading with the Truth and Love Ministry. Folks, I wanted to bring to you a very important and yet troubling update about our ministry and about attacks that are coming against us, particularly from those who are claiming to be Christians. As you know, we travel across the country seeking to speak the truth in love, but also exposing deception within our nation and within the church. And as we do that, we have opposition. And now we have opposition that is accusing us of hate crimes. You heard me right. We have Marxists and Islamists and religious folks who are claiming to be Christians who are accusing our ministry of hate crimes. Recently, I was in Minnesota, and we had 4 nights that we were speaking in 3 different churches. I'm very grateful for the churches that opened their doors. And we had almost 900 people that we were able to equip. We actually saw 3 people come to Christ. One, a Somali Muslim who came to Christ, praise God. We equipped over 250 people to share the gospel with Muslims. So God did an amazing work. But in the midst of that, we also saw great opposition. Many of you know that our ministry has been labeled as a hate group by the SPLC. In fact, last year, when the SPLC labeled our ministry a hate group, they got a quote from CARE Washington. Now, folks, remember CARE is the Council on American Islamic Relations. This is a front group for the Muslim Brotherhood. This is Hamas in America. So when you hear the name CARE, it's Hamas. Many of you know that in April of this year, we had our Worldview Weekend events shut down in Wisconsin and Minnesota by who? CARE, the SPLC, Antifa, and the interfaith groups. Well, guess what? We were there in Minnesota again, and we were in St. Cloud on Friday night, November 30th, and we encountered the local interfaith group called Unite Cloud. Now, this is their logo here on the screen behind me, Unite Cloud. And it sounds wonderful, doesn't it? But they're an interfaith group that works with CARE, that works with the Muslim Brotherhood. And their group has tried to stop us and has protested us on previous trips, has tried to shut us down. And there's a gal I want to mention by name and her husband. Her name is Natalie Ringsmith and her husband Jeremy. Well, they're part of this Unite Cloud group. And they claim to be Christians. Well, how many times have I publicly stated and warned Christians that the greatest opposition that we're going to see is not from the left. It's from other so-called Christians, what I call the false dominant church. And that's exactly what we saw here in Minnesota, folks. When we were there at this event, we knew they were going to try to cause some sort of a ruckus, some sort of a disturbance. And last year, because they had protests outside, it was Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the Muslim Brotherhood, and Unite Cloud, all joining forces to come against us at a Christian church, Granite City Baptist Church in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Well, this time around, we were ready for them. So we had a great presentation. I was sharing about the ongoing Christian persecution around the world, a presentation that's called Hated for the Cause of Christ, War on Christians. After the presentation, we had a Q&A time, written Q&A time. Then we had a time at the table, and it was at that time that this group ended up actually leaving the building and then came back. There was 2 Muslims there that one of them came and confronted me. The gal from Unite Cloud, she just stood there with her arms crossed, looking smug, and it was the Muslim who came and confronted me. He wanted to challenge me on things that I said during the presentation, which I wasn't surprised on. But he wanted to lie to me, and I asked him several questions to try to expose him. And sure enough, I was able to show that he was lying. And he started raising his voice. And so I was wanting to meet his voice and his tone, because they tried to intimidate. That's their tactic, intimidation. Well, I wasn't going to fall for that. So I asked him several questions. And in this discussion, which was heated, I admit, I was able to expose that he was lying. And later we found out that this gentleman, whose name was Hassan Youssef, is actually connected to this guy on the screen. If you can see here behind me. Well, who's this guy? This guy is Jailani Hussein. Jailani Hussein is the head of CARE in Minnesota. Now remember, I've had run-ins with CARE across the country. Again, when the SPLC labeled us as a hate group, they got a quote from CARE. And CARE said, my speech is leading kids to being bullied, adults being taunted at work, vandalism of property, and hate crimes. Folks, if that is true, then I am committing crimes. But yet they can't prove any of it. They don't have any single example of anybody in my presentations going and committing these things. And I have publicly denounced any violence, any bullying, any intimidation or vandalism. And so guess what? This is the same thing that they're trying now against us in Minnesota. Because after this encounter, Natalie Ringsmith from Unite Cloud goes on Facebook and decries her being a victim of the event, says that I was mistreating her, quote, sweet Muslim friend, that they were kicked out of the event. Well, he wasn't. She was. He wasn't. We ended the conversation. It was going nowhere. He wanted to debate me. I said, I'm not going to waste my time with someone who's going to lie to me repeatedly. He was actually denying Islamic sources. I was quoting from the Sharia law manual. He denied this is valid. He denied there's any such thing as a Sharia law book, even though this is validated by the top Islamic scholars in the world. I asked him to show me verses in the Quran. He couldn't show me one verse. He kept saying that I want to just debate you. So that's how that conversation went. And by the way, we have that part of that conversation on video. There was one of our supporters who was outside in the foyer of the church. She recorded part of that conversation, I should say. And we have it on video that he was never kicked out, that I simply told him we're done because I'm not going to waste my precious time speaking with someone and wanting to talk about debating someone who's going to lie to me. But what happened afterwards is what's troubling. And that is both Natalie from Unite Cloud and this man, Hassan Youssef, went on Facebook and espoused the most outrageous lies that I've ever heard. And I want to share just a few things that he said. And then I have put together 4 radio shows that are going to be available on our website at tilproject.com. This is this man's Facebook post that he put on Saturday, December 1st at 2:34, the day after the event. And he accuses me in here 5 times of inciting violence. Now, folks, it's one thing to say I'm a hate speaker. It's one thing to say that I'm lying. It's another thing to say that we are inciting violence. If we're inciting violence, then those are religiously motivated hate crimes. And that would be criminal. Gosh, I wonder if that's what they have planned for us. I wonder if they have that plan for Bible-believing Christians and conservatives who are going to stand up to this deception, stand up to the overthrow and the takeover of our country and the sabotage of our country. I wonder if they're going to begin to accuse us of hate speech and hate crimes. Oh, wait a second. They already are. So this man goes on Facebook. Again, we've shown that Hassan Youssef, this Somali Muslim in Minnesota, is connected to CARE. Jelani Hussein is connected to the Muslim Brotherhood. Natalie Ringsmith is connected to CARE. She's works with CARE. And here's the way that we should actually phrase this. People like Natalie Ringsmith and Unite Cloud, they're actually aiding and abetting the enemy. CARE is a jihadist group. By their own words, they want to overthrow our nation. So if you have interfaith groups that are aiding and abetting the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE, that means they're complicit. They're complicit in the destruction and the sabotage of our nation. And so we need to be able to say that people like Natalie Ringsmith, they're not hanging around with terrorists, with jihadists. That's what's going on. And Hassan Youssef, he accuses me. Let me just read this one excerpt that's very troubling. He says, even though, this is what he's saying about my presentation, by the way, which was attended by over 250 people at Granite City Baptist Church. So we have many witnesses. And, one more thing I should add. Folks, we videotaped the presentation. I don't know if these folks who accuse us of this stuff know that we videotaped the presentation, but we have the entire presentation on videotape. And we're going to be releasing that on YouTube unedited soon. So we have witnesses and we have the videotape of what I said during the presentation. And here's what he's saying. He said, even though his proclamations were patently false and inaccurate, his bold propaganda was so full of hate and well-planned lies that mesmerized his audience, who were more than willing to go along with his, now pay attention, call for direct violence against Muslims and what they represent. calls for direct violence against Muslims. So you're saying that I called for direct violence in my presentation? I'm pretty sure if I called for direct violence, that the pastor would have rebuked me publicly, because that's what I would have done if someone did that in my church. I'm sure if I called for direct violence against Muslims, there were people in that audience who wouldn't have given a standing ovation and wouldn't have said this was an eye-opening presentation. No. Hassan Youssef comes with Unite Cloud, these foolish so-called Christians, and accuses me 5 times of hate crimes. Well, Mr. Youssef, guess what? We have videotape of the presentation. Natalie Ringsmith, guess what? We have videotape of the presentation. And oh, by the way, you know what else I have? I've gotten witness statements from people who were at the presentation. We have a bunch of these witness statements that are coming in, refuting these type of lies that are coming in. And you know, if this wasn't Minnesota, and if this wasn't a state where Keith Ellison is going to be their next attorney general, maybe I wouldn't be so concerned. But I told the folks there when I was there this past trip, I may not be able to come back, because if these type of allegations stand, folks, we're not going to be able to do these presentations. We're not going to be able to have events, because what stops Keith Ellison or anybody in Minnesota who's in law enforcement from issuing an arrest warrant for me or anybody like me, because they can simply accuse us of hate crimes and it goes unchecked? Well, not here and not now. By the way, I checked into the statutes in the state of Minnesota for defamation. And there are 3 conditions of defamation that must be met. The statements that were made have to be made to someone other than the plaintiff. That means that these statements that were made, that were put on Facebook, that were live on Facebook, they need to be made to me. Well, they were never made to me. They didn't confront me directly and said, you're committing an act of hate crime. Number 2, the statements have to be false. Well, we clearly will show that these statements are false. Again, we have eyewitness statements from dozens of people, and we have the videotape of the presentation, everything I said. And number 3, the statements must, quote, tend to harm the plaintiff's reputation and to lower him in the estimation of the community. Well, guess what? That's exactly what they want. They want to destroy us. They want to criminalize us so that we don't come back to Minnesota or we don't ever speak again. If they had their way, we would just be silenced. Folks, this is not the America that we know anymore. This is a serious and dangerous day. So we're seeking some legal counsel, because I believe that we have an excellent case of libel and defamation against these deceivers, the Muslims, the Muslim Brotherhood, and the likes of Natalie Ringsmith. And here's what I'm calling upon Natalie and Mr. Hassan Youssef. Take down your statements. Issue an apology, a retraction. Say that you lied. Say that you were mistaken. Whatever you want to say, I don't care. Take it down and back off. Otherwise, we're coming against you. We're going to take legal action. I am not going to stand by idly and allow ministries like this to be slandered, to be defamed, while you guys just do whatever you can. And folks in Minnesota, if you're seeing this video, you're late in the game, folks. Let's be honest, you're late in the game. Help us stand up. Help us push back. We can't let these accusations go unchallenged. They are going to criminalize us, and they want to send us to jail, and if not, worse. So, folks, thank you for watching this. Thank you for sharing this. I need your help. We need your help. We got to stand together. Let's push back against these lies. And folks, go to our website. We got 2 great DVDs, The Trojan Horse of Interfaith Dialogue, Exposing the Interfaith Deception, and a brand new docu-movie called Sabotage. 6 hours exposing how the Islamists, the Marxists, and their, quote, useful idiots are working to destroy America from within and destroy true Christianity. So pray for us. God bless you, and we'll see you soon.